the omission of some critical information that the forensic service is supposed to be providing to them. Not only that, these investigators will start interacting, will be invited to some meetings by senior officials in the South African Police Service, who then started engaging on the case that these members were investigating. And amongst those engagement they started having with senior officers within the South African Police Service, I must indicate that those engagements were not necessarily largely in Gauteng province, as these members were working under Gauteng province, but they were invited by senior officers at the head office of detective services. At times there would be, there were monies, bribes that were offered to them, and not to oppose bail in some cases that involved Dow, especially in the main. And so the detectives, in the course of the investigation, they felt threatened as these engagements that were happening with the senior officers seems to indicate that there is a high level of connection between the accused or the suspects and senior officials within the police at the head office in the main within detective environment. Moreover, during the period of the incarceration and while on bail, the accused, who's a former police officer, a former detective, Michael Puletau, had made threats against the very same investigation team.
Before
yes,
the general proceeds, Advocate Sello, as you are aware, the ordinary rules of evidence applicable in court proceedings do not apply to this commission.
Indeed, Chair.
In terms.
Unlock your stay for less with app-exclusive prices. Download the free Booking.com app today.
May be negatively impacted. A lot of the evidence in this context is hearsay. Must we assume that down the line it will be corroborated?
In fact, that answer is part answered by the next paragraph, which is what I jumped to. So if I can permit him to conclude, he will then speak of his source of the information, and then I can address the question of the availability of the source.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So then, General, that leads us into paragraph 107. So if you could summarize that paragraph 107, and you, in that narrative, disclose your source of information, of the information you just set out before the commissioners.
Commissioner, as I said earlier, that Lieutenant General Khumalo was the Divisional Commissioner of Crime Intelligence. Major General Likalakala was the head of intelligence, or is the head of intelligence in Gauteng province. Colonel Ntuli worked under Likalakala. So Ntuli conducted threat assessment, and subsequent to that, Lieutenant General Khumalo at the division is informed. General Khumalo established an investigation, register an investigation under counterintelligence, which runs parallel to this, in order to establish this threat, to try and investigate it further. But when these threats were presented to him towards these two detectives that were remaining in the team, he then felt that it is important for a special intervention to be made in order to protect these two investigators. So it is for that reason that General Khumalo felt that he needs to request support from law enforcement who falls outside Gauteng province in order to make sure that the work of these two detectives is protected parallel to the work that he already started from counterintelligence.
And then if you could take it through to paragraph 108, then I will get back to the chairperson's question.
Yeah. Commissioner, the assistant that was required by General Khumalo was of a highly specialized team that was to be deployed in Gauteng to assist in order to ensure that the investigation advanced swiftly. I can indicate, as I said earlier, that Lieutenant General Khumalo requested that a team of members from KwaZulu-Natal Political Killings Task Team be seconded to his investigation team, which was a Gauteng counterintelligence operations, in order to assist with the investigation. So he was specific as he was asking when he contacted me over the phone. In that request, when he was discussing with me, he ought to have explained the reason behind this. Counterintelligence is a more of a covert operation. So it is the work that ordinarily we don't account to in an open portfolio committee in the police, but through the Joint Standing Committee, that's how they account. So he gave me an explanation that will justify why he needs this specialization to come and assist.
If I may then refer the chairperson, at paragraph 107 read with 108, those two paragraphs speak to an engagement and a direct request by Lieutenant General Khumalo to General Mkhwanazi regarding assistance. Thank you, Chair. And having pointed that out, if you could just skip to paragraph 156 and 157. And in the context of where the witness started describing the nature of his testimony and perhaps evidence that would be available to the Commission. 156, he makes the point that the bulk of the information that informs the work of the Commission relies on ongoing investigations, and as such cannot be disclosed publicly, as this would adversely affect these investigations. Having pointed that out, however, at 157, he gives assurance to the Commission that full disclosure of all relevant facts will be made at subsequent in-camera hearings. So to your question, there will be corroboration. It would just be a question of the extent to which that would be held in public or in camera. Because of the possibility of some of it being in camera, I'm not in a position to say as to which witness will be available for that session. Yes.
General Mkhwanazi?
Yes.
What you speak to in paragraph 106, what you're detailing there, is this information that you received in the course of formal engagements with whoever the sources are, or it's informal? I just want to know where do we place it?
Commissioner, when I raised the issue of the engagement that I had with Lieutenant General Khumalo, as is outlined on paragraph 108, where he called me and asking for assistance, he then explained what led into him asking. Hence, I bring those.
Thank you.
On 106.
Thank you, Chair. You spoke of two detectives in paragraph 107, but I think you overlooked an important aspect regarding the two detectives. Would you like to highlight that?
I must indicate that, Commissioner, there were 5 altogether. And what made this threat to be high was because there was a reduction of the number of investigators into that case of Vereeniging from 5 to 2. Well, of course, we don't know the reasons as to what led into that. So part of the threat was that the team that was busy with this investigation felt that they can protect themselves because there's quite a lot of them, but suddenly they are reduced to 2. And that made them feel more vulnerable. And as a result, and in part, the death threats were made on them. And there was also this growing concern about infiltration of the police, which might have led into the reduction of these number of detectives that are deployed.
Let's turn then to the request made to you by Lieutenant General Khumalo. Could you give a brief description of the nature of the request?
Commissioner, Lieutenant General Khumalo, if you remember, if you recall, I mentioned earlier that he has been with the political killings task team from inception in 2018. So he understands the methodology of operations that we are running within the political task team and different disciplines and expertise that are sitting there. The Commissioner made the reference to paragraph 93 about the achievement of the team, which has been reflected on the successes that they've made over time. So he was well aware that if anyone that is going to be able to have the 2 detectives from Gauteng, they better come from that team, because it's well equipped and he understands how they operate. So that's why he approached me and he asked me if I can release some of these investigators to come to Gauteng so they can assist.
And how many did he request and for what purpose?
He requested 10 of them, and they had specific purpose that they were going to, specific roles they were going to play. Amongst the 10 will include a commander that was going to be in charge of the team, the analyst that were going to assist the team, the investigators, including the digital forensic investigators, ballistic analysts, crime scene experts, as well as a designated firearm officer and cell phone data analysis. These are all the disciplines that he was specific on, considering that there were cell phones and there were firearms that were involved in this investigation, and he needed to have all these people that will assist with the investigation.
And what was your response to the request by General Khumalo?
I granted approval for him. I must indicate, in me granting approval for the team to go, as I said earlier, it was over the phone communication between me and him. And he was requesting because he had already registered a covert investigation. So when you do covert investigation in normal sense of things, you don't throw out written correspondences that can be traced. Because then it will be known that these are the people that are moving to this direction to do the work. So they moved and fell under that covert operation, and they went to Gauteng. That was between me and him, of course. The general is reporting at the national level, I'll assume, as he's going to appear before the commission, he will be able to explain the level of engagement that he was having with the National Commission in this regard.
And at paragraph 112, you point out a significant point regarding their deployment.
Yeah, that's correct. The 10 became the 10 members from the political killings task team.
So at 111.
Or due to the sensitive nature of the identities, as I said, because they were involved in the covert operations, therefore, I cannot be able to indicate the identities of the 12 who are they, but we have them on record. Maybe during the in-camera discussion, we might, if need be, discuss that.
So we're at a point now where you have approved the deployment of the 10 task team members to the Gauteng counterintelligence ops. Upon being released and accepted into GCI ops, what becomes of these 10 people? How do they operate?
GCI ops being the project that is running in Gauteng, the 10 members from the political killing task team became part of the operation, the GCI operation. So they then operated under the banner of the GCI ops Gauteng.
I take it that in that role, there would then be dockets in the normal course of police work and investigations. Is that correct?
That is correct, Commissioners. You recall that Vereeniging incident had happened and it was part of the organized crime Gauteng where these threats originated from. A parallel investigation established by counterintelligence from the division side, and all these dockets that were registered in this project in Gauteng, they fell under Gauteng province and KZN had no business on it. But because the 10 members that came to Gauteng are coming from KZN, they became part of that investigation, and those case dockets belong to Gauteng province. They're not under KwaZulu-Natal.
So you say they were not under KwaZulu-Natal. Could it be said that could the political killings task team claim ownership of those dockets that were being investigated under the GCI ops with the assistance of the 10 task team members?
No, negative, Commissioner. The members, when they left KwaZulu-Natal, they only left with their tactical equipment only. The investigation that was conducted in KwaZulu-Natal remained with the political killing task team in KwaZulu-Natal. So the 10 that moved to Gauteng, they moved similar to the group that had moved to Fort Hare in Eastern Cape. So they did not go with dockets. Those that went to Eastern Cape had gone there without dockets. They registered dockets in Eastern Cape. It became Eastern Cape dockets. Although the team kept them because they were working, that project was not under Eastern Cape, it was under the political task team, so they kept those dockets in the team. But the one in Gauteng, there were already dockets in Gauteng under the GCI operations. The team only arrived in Gauteng without any case docket, and they joined the investigation already that is running in Gauteng. So the dockets in Gauteng did not fall under the political killings task team. They remained the Gauteng dockets.
You, at 114, you talked to the integration of the 10 task team members into the GCI ops operation. Can you talk to that? At 114.
At 114, I can indicate, Commissioners, that, as I said earlier, the methodology that was used by the team in KZN, the team brought that to this Gauteng operation, which was incorporated in Gauteng, which then led into the arrest of one Mr. Katiso Molefe, who was arrested, became the fourth suspect on the Vereeniging murder case. And that also included the execution of a search and seizure warrant at the property of another individual, Mr. Vusmus Ket Matlala. Both those operations, they were running on the same day, on the 6th of December, 2024, in Gauteng.
So, to check my understanding, and in particular in relation, for example, to the arrest of Mr. Katiso Molefe, you suggest that the task team members were involved in that operation, they were a part of that operation, but they were not doing so as falling under the auspices of the task team. They were falling under GCI ops. Is my understanding correct?
It is correct. If I can maybe request, Commissioner, as we have done, when we call the members political killings task team. So this is a group of members that are part of the team, or some of them are coming from Limpopo, some of them are coming from Cape Town, some of them from other provinces, and from different disciplines, be it crime intelligence, be it detective and forensic, but they are not referred to as Limpopo, they are not referred to as forensic, they are referred to as a political killings task team. So the 10, upon leaving KZN, they put aside the title of being a political killings task team, and they wore the badge of being a Gauteng counterintelligence operation. So going forward, we'll then talk about the Gauteng organized investigative team or operation that was running. So that is the title then that they would be carrying, knowing that they are coming from wherever they come from, but they are now a Gauteng organized crime operation team.
So then, at paragraph 115, you suggest to leave these issues at this juncture, explaining that General Khumalo will in due course testify to these facts.
That is true, Commissioner. It's for that reason that I'm saying that this was Lieutenant General Khumalo running operation under his profile or portfolio as crime intelligence, not as a project leader for the political killing task teams. Therefore, he will come and explain more of what this operation is all about.
You next specifically make reference to two arrests. The arrest of, the heading of your subject is arrest of Molefe and Madlanga. And you deal with a number of issues pertaining to these arrests. I would like us to go through that, starting at paragraph 116.
Commissioner, the heading here says arrest of Molefe and Madlanga. Because we are covering, we had said earlier on paragraph 114 that there was a search and seizure at Madlanga, but not the arrest. That was on the 6th. But as we work on this paragraph going down, we're going to reflect the arrest of Madlanga, which then occurred later. That's why the heading reads arrest of both Molefe and Madlanga. As I said, Commissioner, that General Khumalo, Lieutenant General Khumalo, as a project leader, as a person who had asked me to release members to go and assist, we therefore remain in contact, communication between me and him, partly mainly because I needed to get a regular feedback about these members that he had requested for, because I needed to establish the extent, the duration that these members are going to remain in this team. So we had to keep in contact and updating me on what was happening. And the main reason is because the members still had to execute the task of KZN as it was given to them, which will include some of the work that was done in the Eastern Cape. But they were withdrawn to come and support him in Gauteng. So I did not want that prolonged deployment of theirs to have an impact on the work of the task team in KZN. That's why we had that continuous communication in order to be able to know what is going on. So, Commissioners, that's why I'm saying that it was necessary for this communication in order for me to be able to know the duration of this operation. And that is why then during this engagement between me and him, he will constantly update me about the work that the GCI ops were doing in Gauteng. And he then outlined to me that on the 6th of December last year, the members that the operation GCI ops in Gauteng resulted in the arrest of Mr. Molefe, as well as the search and seizure and the questioning of Mr. Madlanga. Both of them were accused. One was accused of murder on Ferenegeng, and the other one was questioned with regard to the kidnapping of one Mr. Jerry Boshoga. So I am advised, Commissioner, that soon after Molefe's arrest and charged for murder and conspiracy to commit murder, after that charges were leveled against him, there's been further charges that has also been included on Mr. Molefe. Mr. Madlanga was questioned in December, but only to be arrested in May this year. where he was arrested on 3 counts of attempted murder as well as conspiracy to commit murder. So both of these individuals have now formally been charged with serious offenses for which harsh sentences will probably be imposed by the law if proven. So it is my considered view that the secondment of these 10 members from the political killings task team was correct. The decision that we made in terms of assisting in dealing with the organized crime and also satisfying the concerns that were raised by the senior prosecutor, Advocate Kutsie, when she wrote a letter and raising a concern with regard to the work of the investigators on the Vereeniging case.
So in terms of yes,
Just
yes,
a moment,
Commissioner.
Advocate Silla. General, the secondment of the 10 members of the task team, what became of it? Is it still in place? Are they still seconded?
Commissioner, the members are still on the ground. The operation is still ongoing. The very same Gauteng counterintelligence operation is the one that led to the arrest of Mr. Molefe again. It's the one that led into the arrest of Mr. Matlala. It's a team that today, as we sit here, has been part of the opposing of the bail of Mr. Matlala, which was denied by court today.
Thank you, Commissioner. So now, on our timeline, we've come up to the 6th of December 2024 with the arrest of Mr. Molefe and the search and seizure warrant being executed on Mr. Matlala and questioning both of them regarding the kidnapping of one Mr. Jerry Bushoga. We go overleaf at page 43 of your statement, and that the topic there is headed the disestablishment of the PKTT. And your first paragraph there precedes with the wording on or about the 2nd of January 2025. Before you address yourself to that, the last date we had was the 6th of December that you speak of. The next is the 2nd of January. At that time, did anything of importance arise or occur that you'd like to bring to the chair's attention? Not what you subsequently learned had happened, but any other issue you would like to address.
Commissioners, the 2nd of January 2021, I cannot recall the exact time, I received...
No, not 2021.
2nd of January 2025, beg your
Yes.
pardon. I received a WhatsApp message from a friend who sent me what looks like a letter that was signed by the Minister of Police disestablishing the political killings task team.
You say in that paragraph that you had not received formal communication in this regard.
That is true, Commissioner. I had not received any communication from anyone with regard to the disestablishment of the team.
So you established on the 2nd of something that had transpired involving the task team before the 2nd, but you did not do so formally. You learned through a friend, so you say.
That is correct, Commissioner. I learned through a WhatsApp message with a copy of the letter that was sent by a friend.
What were the implications? What was your understanding of the implications of the letter that you...
This is a team that was formed in 2018, where the executive or the head of the executive, which is the president of the country, was involved. A group of ministers, which we refer to as the interministerial committee, were overseeing the work of this team. Different steering committees that were charged with the responsibility to oversee the work of the team, as well as, more importantly, the budget, the financial cost that was given to the team. But most critical are the investment that needed closure with regard to the work that the team was doing. We're going to be affected by this letter. That's why I was surprised, because getting it from a private person who is not involved in police operations was a surprise.
And
Before, I'm sorry.
Yes, Chair.
Before you go on, did the minister have the power to disband the PKTT? If he did, where did the power derive from?
Commissioner, when I started earlier, I had outlined, invited the commissioners to read the sections of the Constitution of the Republic on the role of the minister or the member of cabinet, which is the Minister of Police.
I remember the main thing you stated was that the minister creates or stipulates the policy. That's the main thing I heard. So that's why I'm now asking the question, because
Yes.
I don't think disbanding the PKTT relates.
Policy and direction, but not on operational matters. That's what, it's another implication of the letter as it was signed by the minister talking to the operational works of the police.
Of all the times you could have run out of data, Suresh, get your airtime.
But I'm interested to know why there would then have been compliance with the instruction to disband if, as you say, this did not fall within the remit of the minister.
Commissioner, I had indicated 30th of March 2025. So the letter comes in between that. I've indicated the success rate of the team and the fact that there were still cases that were in court. And a matter of fact, as the Interministerial Committee continuously receiving reports, I think the last report will have been given to them in September of 2023, prior to the national elections. That was the last time that executive interacted with the team. So the letter coming up on the 2nd of January, written in this fashion, it created a bit of a problem for me because I did not understand the background where it comes from. But I guess as we go through with the investigation, we will be able to express some of the challenges that we experience as a result of that letter.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Perhaps, and then to just close up that point, you have attached the letter itself to your statement. You make reference to that at paragraph 128 at page 44. It is annexure MK9 and it starts at page 184 of file 2. So why don't we go to the letter and concluding perhaps your answer to the Chair. Looking at the letter, if we go to the second page, I see it is signed by the Minister of Police, Mr. Mkhwanazi. It's dated the 31st of December 2024. Is that the letter that you say you received on the 2nd through a friend, on WhatsApp communication?
That is correct.
Okay. Looking at that letter, I see it covers 3 major issues. The first, and they're numbered. First relates to the filling of posts in the intelligence division. Is that an aspect that is relevant to your operations, both as a political killings task team or as the provincial commissioner? Would that fall within your remit? Item 1.
The filling of vacancies of crime intelligence.
Yes.
It is a responsibility of the divisional commissioner, who is Lieutenant General Khumalo, together with the National Commission. However, the crime intelligence in each province ought to have the leader,
yes,
which provides services to the province. So therefore, in that, it will affect me as a provincial commissioner.
Now, based on this letter, were you directly impacted by the instruction to suspend the filling of posts within the within the intelligence division in KZN specifically? Were you directly impacted? By you, I mean the province and...
Yes, Commissioners, the impact of this is severe. We already have been trying to put some reforms within crime intelligence in order to respond to the growing crime levels that we're experiencing in the country. You'll recall, Commissioner, in 2021, July unrest, and subsequent to that, the Human Rights Commission that was that conducted hearing. The level of intelligence or the poor performance of intelligence was highlighted during the Human Rights Commission, and the recommendation was that we need to improve in this regard. So therefore, for us not to fill up vacancies that are critical within the space was going to have an impact in our efforts to fight crime and maintaining public order in the province of KwaZulu-Natal.
The next item is under 2, it's headed ports of entry. My reading of that part of the letter is that the minister was calling for a report in regard to border management. Do you read it the same?
That is correct.
Okay. So, and the third then is headed political killings task team. And perhaps it's only appropriate that you read what the minister's directive as reflected therein into the record, and that would part answer, I believe, the question posed by the chair.
The letter is on this paragraph, if I may quote, political killings task team. In 2019, a directive was made to the National Commissioner of Police following the Mkhwanazi Commission report, even though not flowing directly from such, that an interministerial task force be established. The key mandate was to stop, investigate, resolved, unresolved matters of politicians in the country, especially in KwaZulu-Natal. My observation in this regard, as indicated above, is that further existence of this team is no longer required, nor is it adding any value to policing in South Africa. I therefore direct that the political killings task team be disestablished immediately. Further, that a preliminary report in this regard be submitted to the Minister by the 20th of January 2025. The final and closing report must be submitted to the Ministry's Management Executive Committee meeting late January 2025, the date of which will be communicated as soon as possible. Yours sincerely, Minister of Police, Mr. E.S. Mkhwanazi, MP.
Let me ask this direct question, General. Is this a policy or a policing issue, and why?
Commissioner, as in my opinion, views and experience I have in the police of over 30 years, this is a letter that is operational, not policy. It talks to the operational work of the police, of the SAPS, mainly so because this is one team that has been successful out of the 11 teams that are running at national level. But it is the only team that receives this type of letter. So I felt that this is an operational thing, notwithstanding the fact that there are other background references in terms of the establishment of this team that were omitted, perhaps were not known to the Minister, the reason of which I think he is in a better position to explain.
Thank you, Chair. I know further on in your statement you deal with these issues, but I would like to invite you to give a preliminary response to the statement made by the Minister in the letter, and I quote, "My observation in this regard, as indicated above, is that further existence of this team is no longer required, nor is it adding any value to policing in South Africa." Do you have any comment to that statement?
Commissioner, I disagree with the assessment of the minister in this regard. I have displayed earlier today, also in the statement, previous pages, the work that the team have done, the success rate, the performance that influence the extra work to be given to the team, which will include the work in Eastern Cape as well as traditional leadership. So for a minister to reach this conclusion, worse because the minister has not received a formal briefing on the work that this team is doing. So to me, it was a wrong conclusion that the minister has reached, which is why it became a matter of concern.
I think somewhere in your statement, but as part of that same theme, you say that the disbandment would have resulted in all dockers having to be sent to different corners within KwaZulu-Natal to be handled by individual investigators who would no longer have the benefit of this integrated approach to, one, investigating and also two, to prosecution, which, according to your statement, would have been disadvantageous to the process.
That is correct, Commissioner. I can agree with you more. The minister's conclusion of saying that the team does not have any value in policing in South Africa was misplaced. It is my belief that perhaps, as I had said in the public, in the very same month of January, that someone influenced the minister to do this.
Yes.
Thank you. General, you say that at the time of this letter, the minister had not received a formal briefing on the work of the task team. You say formal. Had he received any briefing at all from you in particular?
Commissioner, when the minister arrived, I cannot remember the date when he was appointed, he had invited the police management to the South African Police Service Academy at Pretoria West, where presentations were given to the minister. But that was strategic presentation that were given to the minister, not specifics on operational matters. I had an opportunity also to stand, take a podium there and present to the minister. One of the remarks I made in my presentation to him was to invite him to visit KZN so that he get to experience some of the operational challenges that we have as a province, especially because he's a resident of the very same province. So it was in a part of my presentation when I was talking to him. So, but in a formal briefing, as it was done during the IMC of the previous administration, there was never such a briefing. There was never such an opportunity presented for a formal briefing to be made to outline in details of what the team has achieved up until the time when he wrote this letter. Actually, up to date, he has never had that platform.
And perhaps, if I may just follow up on that. Earlier in the morning, you, in discussion of the IMC, you stated that the Minister of Police is the chair of that committee. Is that correct?
That is correct. Is the chair of the committee.
Do you know who calls for the meetings of that committee?
Although I will not necessarily know between the ministries how they communicate, but from the police, we'll always get correspondence coming from the Minister of Police as a chairperson convening such a briefing session. So that will go via the National Commissioner's office and it will be brought to us so that we prepare for that briefing and the date when the briefing is going to take place.
Since the Minister Mkhwanazi assumed office, I think it was May 2024, have you received such an invitation?
We have never received an invitation at all.
Getting back to your statement then from paragraph 126. From 126, you engage with the steps you took upon learning of the minister's decision on the 2nd of December, albeit through a friend. Can we talk about the immediate steps you took upon learning of the minister's decision? Where we started paragraph 126 of your statement.
Yes.
Ms. Siller, don't you mean paragraph 123?
I do mean paragraph 123 indeed. Thank you, Commissioner. my page flipped. It's marked for another purpose. It is 123. I apologize, General, for the confusion. Thank you, Commissioner.
Yes, Commissioner. Perhaps maybe I must pause to mention something that perhaps I did not include on my statement, that upon receipt of this WhatsApp message with a letter, the first point of contact was to engage the Chief of Staff at the Minister's office. Mr. Nkabinde is a well-known individual to me. I personally called him, understanding that there can never be any letter signed by the minister that does not pass his desk, or at least pass his hand. So I asked about it, whether is he aware, or maybe it's just a fake letter that is created by someone and is circulating. So I asked him if he's aware of such a letter that is disestablishing the team. And his response was yes, he is aware of the letter. In actual fact, his words were, the letter has been going back and forth. Someone crafting it, sending it to the minister, has been corrected. Eventually, it was put under pressure to dispatch it to the office of the National Commissioner. So the letter, as I saw it, it's a correct letter that was signed by the Minister of Police. So from there, because it was unofficial when I was talking to him when he gave me the response, I then felt at the time what had confused me the most, Commissioner, is because I will expect, obviously, the letters addressed to the National Commissioner, that the National Commissioner will communicate with me about this. I took an opportunity to call him. The National Commissioner must indicate, Commissioner, that he was on leave at the time when I received this letter, when I saw this letter. He was on vacation leave. I cannot remember exact date. It could have been a Tuesday, but it was during the week when this letter came out. A weekend prior to that, which was a Saturday, the National Commissioner and the Minister of Police had visited KwaZulu-Natal province to come and support us as we were mourning the death of one of our colleagues. So there was a funeral that was took place at the area of Mpangeni in KwaZulu-Natal. It's a Saturday. And when the funeral ended, the minister, in his own words, was that he's going to rest in the province, he's going to be around the province, so I must be aware of that. And the National Commissioner was going to be starting his leave on Monday, so we all went separate ways. National Commissioner traveled to Pretoria that Saturday evening, and the minister will have gone to his residence in KwaZulu-Natal. It's a Saturday. Sunday goes by, the Monday, I cannot remember the date, but 2 or 3 days later, the letter surfaced. So the National Commission has just taken leave. So that's what troubled me, because I find it odd that you cannot have a National Commissioner or the Minister writing a letter to the National Commissioner that has got such content and these allegations if the Minister had not discussed this with the National Commissioner somewhere before. Perhaps it's just formalizing the communication that he had had with the National Commission. That's why then I took a decision to contact the National Commission to try and establish from him whether is he aware about this letter, has he been told about this disestablishment. And the National Commissioner's response was that he is on leave, which his leave is going to end on the 14th of January, and he hasn't had an opportunity to consider the content of the letter. but he had nothing to do with the disbandment and of this political killings task team. And he also informed me that the Minister of Police has never sought his advice before taking this decision. So I also advised him that I also had not been engaged about the decision of the minister. So that is the first engagement I had with the National Commissioner as he was on leave.
He was still on leave at the time you had that engagement.
That is correct.
Before then we discuss what you did next. Can I go back to an issue you raised and you said it's not part of your statement? And that relates to your contact with the Chief of Staff in the Minister's office. And if I recall correctly, you said the Chief of Staff informed you that the letter was going to and fro. I think those are the words you used. Do you recall that?
That's correct.
What do you know between who that letter was going to and fro?
Commissioners, I did not ask him who are these back and forth, but my conclusion was that the drafters of the letter were on the other side of the country.
Country, you said?
The other side of the country, because the minister was in KwaZulu-Natal.
Okay.
So the drafters would have been elsewhere, not together with the minister. And the correspondence will have gone to the Chief of Staff, who then directed to the minister. And perhaps the minister will not be happy with some content and will bring it back to the Chief of Staff, and the Chief of Staff will send it to the drafters. That's why the back and forth statement come from. That is my assumption. Okay. And eventually, after the signature was placed on the document, then the Chief of Staff was, on his own words, pressured to make sure that the National Commissioner's Office receives and acknowledges the receipt on the letter on the day. So he never told me who pressured him to do that. So I guess the investigation will be able to discover where did the letter originate from before the minister signs it.
The pressure was on the Chief of Staff.
That is correct, Commissioner, according to his own words.
And over what period, if you know, was the minister in KZN? I know from the time of the funeral. When was the funeral? And do you know up to what point?
I do not know the duration that the minister was in KZN for, but actually I don't even know when he arrived in KZN, but the funeral was on the Saturday, which was the last Saturday of December. The funeral was on that Saturday in KwaZulu-Natal, and on the 2nd is when this letter was signed. And when we separated on the day of the funeral, the minister told me that he's going to be in the province. So whether he had left the province maybe between the funeral day and the date of the letter, I do not know.
Thank you, General.
Thank you, Chair. So the National Commissioner was not able to shed any better light on the letter because he says he wasn't aware of it. He was not engaged before it was crafted and dispatched, and he didn't know anything about it. That's what you. What then did you do next?
Commissioners, I made a suggestion to the National Commissioner that he must speak to the minister in order to be able to establish the factors that made the minister to consider arriving in this conclusion and a drastic decision to disestablish the team. Because in my views, it was irrational and irregular. The decision was going to have a serious impact, as I said, in terms of the investigation of crime and those cases that were before the team. And also in the main, because I, as per the Constitution, given the responsibility to make sure that policing is done in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, and the population of over 12.5 million were going to look at me as having failed them. So the consequence of a sudden stop of investigation was going to impact on us as the South African Police Service in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, and myself as a person responsible for the work that needed to be done.
And what, do you know whether or not the National Commissioner acted on your request to engage the minister and establish the issues that you've highlighted?
Well, I did not hear from the National Commission after that. Commissioners, as the time were progressing, I did not, it never really came back to me to tell me what is the next course of action, but it continuously signs off the extension of the deployment of the team in the province, regardless of the letter.
And you indicate that you took some resolutions following the National Commissioner's failure to report back to you on any contact and conversation he may have had with the minister. What were those steps you took?
Part of the, if I hear the question correct, coming out to the minister so that did not I then took a decision in the form of a WhatsApp as to set up a meeting.
Paragraph 126. Do you want to speak to that?
In my effort to engage with the minister about this matter, the National Commission was that if to talk about this, the president, and the president knows doing over these years about what, and I wanted the National Committee to minister is supporting this decision as a provincial commissioner. My boss, which is the National Commission, because decision that seems to be contrary. Also wanted to indicate was as a result of the South African Police Service, an integrated operation, group of ministers, half of the president. Minister takes a decision, or even so, rational decision, whereas